So today we're going to be doing a double review of the Transformers 2 series Bumblebee movie Voyager class Starscream and Thrust. So if you don't already know, these figures have pretty much the exact same transformation and articulation, so I will only be showing the transformation on one of the figures and the articulation on the other. I will also be making several comparisons of Thrust and Starscream together and separately, and of course I will be taking a look at the details of both robot modes and their accessories. I will also be taking a look at the details of their Tetrajet modes, of course, and the storage for their accessories, and that will be pretty much it for this review, so let's now get into take a look at the details of both robot modes. Let's start with Starscream, starting at the very top with that head sculpt. I think they did a really good job recreating the Starscream head sculpt. Some nice piercing red for those eyes, some silver for the face, and some nice dark black for the main helmet section. You can actually see some sort of later venting on the side of his face, which looks really good. Some silver for these back intake sections near his shoulders, which looks really good. I really do like the angle of his shoulders, very angled and spiked, looking very cool. And I really do like how there is a different look for the wing. You can actually do this with all of the Seekers, Thundercracker, Thrust, which is a really cool feature, but I actually kind of like how this is different. It kind of helps tell apart from Thrust and Thundercracker, but if you want to have the down-angled look for the wings, you can, which is a nice customizable feature. Nice stripe of red and white there, some nice light gray, some more red at the bottom of the wings. I really do like the arms, really well done, sculpted in detailing, some wires and mechanical detailing done in some nice silverish gray, looking very, very cool, with a nice stripe of red at the bicep, some nice blue, really well sculpted in hand, done in black. Getting down to the chest, of course, some nice yellow and a gray up top, a darker shade of gray and a lighter shade of gray, transparent yellow plastic for the cockpit section or the chest, and of course that sculpted in landing gear, which is a really cool feature they included, even though you don't even use it in the Tetrajet. It's really just mainly for the robot mode, which is a really nice feature they included, really well detailed. And of course, getting down to the legs, some nice silver there, almost looks like armor with some nuts and bolts there, which looks really cool. Some red on the side, some nice light blue. I really do like the shade of blue they use for the arm and leg. That actually looks really nice. And of course, big booster there, which is a really cool feature they kept from Thundercracker and Thrust. You can really just imagine him blasting off into battle without even transforming. It's just a super cool feature. And if you do look at the back, a really nice thing they did is have the Decepticon symbols done at that nice purple. I kind of wish the symbols were a little bit bigger, but that's a very minor nitpick for an overall really good looking Starscream figure. So overall, detail wise, I think they definitely nailed it. Let's now get down to the accessories. So the exact same ones that came with Thrust and Thundercracker. If you haven't seen my Thundercracker review, of course, make sure to check that out after this one. So for his main weapon, of course, is the huge cannon, which looks really good. That nice dark blue there with some missiles on the side of that main barrel. And you can plug this in either hand, which I think it's a better connection with this one over Thundercracker, which that could just be me being crazy. I don't know. It's still a little bit loose for my liking, but I think it is an improvement, which is very cool. Unfortunately, with the null rays, actually did not improve. It actually got worse. The null rays are actually really loose on my copy of Starscream and Thrust, so even facing up or down, which you can do, but by the instructions and the box, the null rays are actually supposed to face down, which I actually kind of prefer, because you can have the wing angled up, but the blasters facing down, kind of gives some contrast. But you can plug these on at the side of the wings. They're the exact same sculpt as Thundercracker and Thrust, which it does look cool, but unfortunately they're very loose, and they do often pop off if you pick this figure up. But just sitting on a table, it stays overall a really well-looking, good-looking Starscream. Let's now take him off to the side, and let's now take a look at Thrust, one of the cone heads, which I do hope they do the other two, Ramjet and Dirge, and that'll look really cool on my Secret collection. So detail-wise, as you can see, a slight change in scope to where the head is. There's a now new cone head piece, but as for the wings, of course, it's in the typical configuration like Thundercracker. As for, of course, Starscream, they were more angled up, which you can do with Thundercracker or Thrust, but I kind of like to have them tell apart a little bit better, sort of makes Starscream look like the leader, which he is supposed to be. So now for details, of course, this resembles more of Thundercracker's head, the sort of oxygen style mask, which looks really good in silver, like some big canisters there with some black for the main helmet section. I kind of wish the red was a little bit brighter on this one. It kind of seems a little bit too dim. Looks like he doesn't even have eyes, which is unfortunate. I think they did a better job with Starscream and Thundercracker than this one, but that's a minor complaint. With some nice dark gray and yellow there, and of course some green. And if you actually look close, there is quite a bit of nut and bolt detailing on the side of the face, which actually looks really nice. Some transparent yellow plastic for the cockpit or chest, some landing gear on the sides, kept that same design there. I think this is sort of a grayish black when the Starscream figure was more of a dark black. And I really do like this nice gunmetal gray. That actually looks really good. On Starscream, it was more of a silverish gray mixture. This is just straight gunmetal gray, which looks really, really nice. And the hand is sculpted in, of course, the same as Thundercracker and Starscream, really well. I really do like how all the fingers are spread apart, which is really nice, not just a solid, closed fist. That looks kind of boring in my opinion. The wings look really nice, 2 shades of green there, and of course a nice point at the end. I kind of wish maybe there was some more detail here. It looks a little bit barren, because on Starscream there was actually a stripe of red here, which gave a little bit of detail, so it'd be nice maybe if they put some silver, some gunmetal gray, or some black there. I think that would have made it look a little less barren and boring, but that's just a minor complaint. Getting down to the legs, some nice gunmetal gray at the top of the legs with some green, lots of circuitry, and of course that booster on the side, which looks really nice. And they kept that same detail. If you open up the leg, there is some nice mechanical detailing in there, which actually looks really, really good. And if you go to the back, we actually do have the Decepticon symbols, which I kind of wish this was the size we had for Starscream and Thundercracker, but the purple I actually kind of prefer on Starscream. This is a bit of a lighter bluish purple mixture, which does look good, but I kind of prefer the dark one they had for Starscream. But overall, detail-wise, I think they did a really good job. Let's now get down to articulation. So, of course, since I'm doing articulation on this figure, I will be transferring Starscream into the Tetrajet. So, the reason why I chose this figure is because, unfortunately, since the cone head is attached with this figure, the head articulation is severely limited. Pretty much none. I'm not sure if that was their intent, but I've actually tried to move this up and down, and it's actually very, very tight. I'm not sure if that's just my copy, and it's tight. I really don't know. Let me know how yours is in the comment section down below. Can you move the head at all in any position? Mine's really stuck. If you kind of move it, it really just moves back into place. It's really hard to move, so that is kind of unfortunate. But as for the wings, of course, there is a hinge here, a swivel here. There's also a slider section here, which can move out, and there is also a hinge here back and forth. So there is quite a bit of customization with the wings as usual. There is a swivel at the shoulder, the arm can move out and in. Swivel at the bicep, of course, an elbow bends, way past 90, really, really good. As for the hand, unfortunately no wrist swivel, which I really think this should have been included, but the hand can collapse, but that's really due to transformation. As for the waist rotation, it is very limited. It's really just kind of a rock back and forth, which is very hard to access. You really have to kind of mingle your way in there because of the backpack section, so it's really just a rock back and forth, not a full rotation, but that was the same for Thundercracker and Starscream. As for the legs, of course, there is a knee bend. The leg can kick that far forward, that far back, that far out, and of course a swivel. There is an ankle pivots, and that is pretty much it for the articulation. So really all that has changed with the articulation is just, of course, the subtraction of the articulation in the head, which is unfortunate, but I'm kind of predicting if they do the rest of the cone heads, Ramjet and Dirge, that will be the same case. It'll be the same sculpt, and the head will be severely limited, which I wouldn't say is a deal breaker. Just be noted, if you're going to get all these seekers, you won't be able to pose these figures as good with the cone heads. But now down to accessories. He does unfortunately have that same problem with the null rays. They're really, really loose on his wings, so I do apologize if they pop off at random times, but they're the same sculpt done in black, which you can have facing up or down, but for Thrust and Starscream, they both are face down. As you can see, they're very, very loose. I barely even touch it and it moves. And of course, for his main weapon, it's the same nice kind of gray there with the green, which looks really, really good. And you can get the other null ray, plug that on there as well. And then you can plug this gun in his hands, which I think looks really, really cool. And there we have him fully armed and ready to go, which looks super, super cool. So that's pretty much it for the details of both robot modes. Let's now get down to some comparisons. Get down to the first set of comparisons. Here we have Starscream, Thrust, and Thundercracker. As you can see, mold-wise, they're very, very similar. Really, the accessories are the exact same, and there is some slight mold changes where the head sculpt is concerned. As you can see, Thrust and Thundercracker are pretty much the exact same figure. Really, just that new added cone at the top of his head is the only mold change. And as for, of course, Starscream, he does have a brand new head sculpt, completely different from these two figures. Of them all, probably I'd have to say my favorite would be Starscream. Just unfortunately, his null rays are very, very loose. Of my least favorite, I would have to say Thrust, because unfortunately his are even looser, and the articulation in the head is severely limited. Not saying he's a bad figure, just there is some things that they could have done a little bit better, but I really do like the blue on Thundercracker. I think they did a really good job. Tolerance-wise, I think definitely they did a really good job on Thundercracker. That could just be my copy, but all the joints on him are very tight. His null rays stay in always, The head sculpt's, of course, really good, and the articulation is really good in his head, so that could just be my copy, who knows, but let me know, of course, between these three, which one do you like the most? I know there is a Blitzwing out there of this mold, which I will get very soon, but of course, most of these are very similar. Blitzwing, of course, I think he was the original, so there is some major changes on him between all of these three, but I do hope they make the rest of the Conids and, of course, Skywarp. I think that'll look really cool in my collection. Let's now move on to some more comparisons. For some more comparisons, here we have Shadowclass Starscream, Earthrise Starscream, Siege Starscream, and Studio Series Bumblebee movie Voyager class Starscream. As you can see, of course, I have quite a few Starscreams. I actually also do have the Coronation Starscream, which I didn't include in the bunch because he's pretty much the exact same figure as the Earthrise one, so I thought to not include that one. But of the bunch, which one's my favorite? I'm not entirely really sure. If I had to pick two, probably I'd have to pick the Shadowglass or the Studio Series Bumblebee movie Starscream, because both those figures are probably tied. I really do like a lot of things about them. The head sculpt on the Studio Series one just really looks cool. I love the two blue blades they have with the Shadowglass one, but I think I'm probably good on Starscreams for a while. Do you think I need any more? I think I'm probably good. Amassed quite a collection of Starscreams, but let me know which one's your favorite in the comment section down below. Of course, you can include the Coronation one, but it is pretty much the exact same as the Earthrise one, just of course the new Coronation gear. But if that's a deal breaker for you, you can say that one's your favorite. No problem with that. Let's now move into some thrust comparison. For one final comparison, here we have the Transformers Earthrise Voyager class thrust with the Transformers Studio Series Bumblebee movie Voyager class thrust. As you can see, of course, this is more the G1 interpretation of thrust, and this is more the live-action Bumblebee movie thrust. As you can see, of course, lots more details on the live-action one. This is more of a simple, plain version, which is okay. I'm actually kind of glad it's two different versions, and I'm glad they went with a completely different color scheme of more of a green. As you can see, this is more done in red and black, so kind of a different, completely different, lighter color scheme for the live-action one. Between the two, let me know which one you like in the comment section down below. And that's pretty much it for the comparisons. Let's now get into transformation into the Tetrajet alt mode. So what you're going to do is compress these two little landing gear pieces here fully like that. You can then go to the wings, and what you're going to do is use the slider section, compress this in like this. You can then rotate at the wing like that, and then you're going to bring this panel down. Do the same thing on the other side, so compress that in, rotate at the tip of the wing, open this panel, and there we have the wings fully complete and transformed. Then what you're going to want to do is bring this whole red section out. You can then move the arms up, rotate at the bicep, of course, do the same thing on the other side, flip in the hands to fill in that cavity, and there we have the arms all done. You can then move this entire head section up, just like that. Let's now go down to the legs. So you're going to open up this entire panel here. Make sure this is out. There we go. Open up this entire panel section. You can then flip in the foot. Do the same thing on the other side. So just open up this entire panel section, flip in the foot. There we go. And then what you're going to want to do is bring this entire gray piece up, and there is a tab on this section and a slot on the inside of the leg that will just tab in. Make sure these little gray pieces are out. Do the same thing on the other side, so just bring that gray piece out, and then you're going to unfold this little fin piece, and then what you're going to want to do is rotate at the hip or the top of the leg, just like that. These little pieces will fill in this entire little cavity section there, so just bring those down, just like that, and then you can bring these little panels up. I would suggest not to tab them yet, because even if you do, they will most likely untab later, so I'm just going to leave them there for now. Then you're going to bring the entire wing assembly around like that, which I think is a pretty cool step that always surprises me when I transform any of these versions of this figure. You can then collapse this red piece like that. Then what you're going to want to do is go to the bottom here. You can split this whole gray section in half, bring the nose cone forward, and then you can re-tab these together. Now make sure that everything is fully collapsed and aligned, and you're going to want to tab the legs to this entire section here, which can be a bit hard to do because it's a little bit hard to see in there. So there is, of course, a slot right there, and there is a tab right there, so you're just going to align that into place. Of course, do the same thing on the other side. Just tab that into place. And before tabbing everything together, you're going to want to make sure this entire assembly is past these two sections right here. So just bring this entire head assembly up, tab everything in to place, which can be a bit trouble. Sometimes you do need to do one side at a time, which can be a bit annoying. Tabbing everything together and just making sure everything is secure. There we go, got one side, and then you get the other. And then just tab everything together. And then what you're going to want to do is go to the bottom half, and we can get to the arms, which sometimes you do need to move the wings out. Sometimes you're going to get the shoulder, disconnect that, which can be very secure. There we go. Bring that forward just like that. You can do the same thing for the other arm. Just bring the entire assembly forward, fix the wing there, and then you're going to bring this entire gray assembly up like that, so you can pretty much hinge the arms back like that. And now for the finishing touches, you need to put on the accessories. So just get this entire cannon here, which you can align both, which it does take quite a bit of work, so you can just tab them into place, and then of course you'll have to align those tabs. And then as for the null rays, these will tab onto the wings, which again, unfortunately on my copy, they're very, very loose, so I do apologize if they get untabbed or fall off. I will have to re-tab those, and just tab that into place like that. And as for one last step, just get these little panels here, align these together, which can be a bit annoying. I do apologize if those untab. There we have Starscream in his really cool looking Cybertronian Tetrajet alt mode. Let's take a look at the details of Starscream, and we have both Starscream and Thrust in their really cool looking Tetrajet alt mode. Let's take a look at the details. It's going to be very quickly, of course, because they're both the exact same mold, so details are pretty similar between each. But as you can see, I think they did a really good job with this Tetrajet. Of course, we have some nice transparent yellow plastic for the cockpit, some nice blue, some gray there, of course. Quite a bit of gray on the top of the Tetrajet with some red here and there. Really nice Decepticon symbols. I kind of wish they were a little bit bigger, kind of like the same size as Thrust, but not looking too bad there. Really nice blue fin at the top with a stripe of white, looking very, very cool. I kind of would have liked maybe some more blue on the wing, but we do have a nice red stripe going all the way down. On the bottom here, of course, the huge can there looking very, very cool with the giant missiles and the barrel there with some more blue. Some more around the bottom, of course, we do have the null rays, which look very, very cool. Really well detailed. And of course, we do have Thrust. And I do apologize again if his null rays come off. I actually took a really long time trying to keep them on, so hopefully they don't pop off during recording. But detail-wise for this one, I think they did a really good job as well. I really do like the green. Very different, of course, from the G1 version of this character. Mostly done with some red and black. Of course, the same cannon accessories, nice Decepticon symbol done with this nice kind of bluish purple mixture with that same yellow for that cockpit section. Really do like this fin there. It's actually, as you can see, a little bit different. It's really just a solid blue for Starscream, but really a mixture of green and gray, and another green stripe there looking very cool. And again, I do have to say again, from the Thundercracker review, I think they did a really good job with the boosters. Kind of different from the Siege Tetrajet one, where it's really just one solid piece in the back, which does look good. I think it looks really good with the Gunmo Gray on the Siege one, but it's actually two separate boosters, which I think looks a little bit better in my opinion. And then, of course, on the bottom, of course, more green. And unfortunately, yes, these figures are kind of a pain to stand up and have a really cool pose for in the Tetrajet alt mode. But overall, detail-wise, I think they did a pretty good job. Really not much to talk about for articulation. And as you can see, these accessories are already stored on there exactly the same way as Thundercracker, but overall look very cool next to each other. So between the two, which one do I prefer? Definitely Starscream. I think the tolerances, just the paint apps, the head sculpt, I think just I like a little bit more. I really wish the null rays could stand better, but I wouldn't say that's a major deal breaker. Either way, I would have definitely recommend this figure. Let's now get into, of course, a quick Tetrajet comparison. So let me bring out Thundercracker to have all of them next to each other, which will look very, very cool. Let me put him in the middle. And as you can see, of course, mold-wise, they are pretty much the exact same thing. The only change, of course, in the robot mode is the head sculpt. And, of course, the deco is an obvious change in this mode, in the robot mode. I really do like Thundercracker. I guess he is pretty much a close second for Starscream. I really just wish, I think Starscream would be a perfect figure if the nail rays were a little bit tighter. Not too bad, but they are much looser than Thundercracker. But overall look very cool next to each other. I'm really hoping they make the rest of the cone heads, and of course Skywarp would complete the original 3 Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp. That'll look really, really cool. And maybe they'll make some G2 redecos. I think that'd be pretty cool to see, like they did in Earthrise. But between the 3, let me know in the comment section down below which one do you prefer. And that's pretty much it for the Ultimate. Let's now get down to the final thoughts for the Transformers Studio Series Bumblebee, Voyager class, Thrust, and Starscream. Let's start with Thrust. Unfortunately, I only have one turntable, so I do apologize, only one of them can be spinning. But starting with Thrust, I think overall they did a really good job with this Tetrajet mode. Really do like the green, the change of color scheme from the dark red or maroon and black color mixture. I really do like this nice light green and gray they got going on with a nice yellow for the cockpit section. I really do like the size of the Decepticon symbol. I would prefer the darker purple from Starscream. So they got the color red from Starscream, just was a little bit bigger, like that size. And of course the accessories store very well. I really do like the nice missiles and the huge barrel at the bottom. That can be a pain to attach, especially during transformation into the Tetrajet mode. It is very annoying to align, of course, the front tab and the back 2 tabs. Of course, that's a complaint for all 3 versions of this mold, and it's especially hard to do on camera, of course, when you're pressured to go fast. I also wish, of course, the null rays could store a little bit better. Unfortunately, they are very, very loose on this copy. They're a little bit better on Starscream, but they could be better. Thundercracker so far has been the best tolerances-wise. Which one I like the most of the 3? Starscream is my personal favorite. Let me know in the comment section down below what is your favorite of these 3. Not, I would say, the biggest complaint, but of course the most signature weapon of the Seekers from G1 to, of course, these figures has always been the null rays, so I kind of wish they could have nailed them a little bit better. I do like the sculpt of the null rays. Of course, if you didn't already know, all 3 versions, Thundercracker, Starscream, and Thrust, they have the exact same sculpted weapons, so there's no change in them. Just weirdly enough, these really just do not fit right for some reason. Of course, getting down to transformation, pretty straightforward again. Getting into the Tetrajet mode, it's kind of annoying to attach that, especially on cam, but really can't do anything about that. Another nitpick of mine, just with this mold in general, is unfortunately the flight stand port is actually on the bottom of the gun there. So I did mention that in my Thundercracker review, if you watch that. I did mention that. It is, I would say, probably the biggest complaint of mine, because I do stop motions a lot, and it's probably the hardest and worst place to use it. And of course, concept-wise, it makes sense because it's on the bottom of the Tetrajet, so you want him to be flying, which is a cool concept. I know what they were going for, but unfortunately, whenever I seem to use my flight stands, typically the blaster will pop off and stick to the stand, or will just pop off and fly somewhere or get knocked off, which can be annoying. So I kind of wish the flight stand port was maybe under the wing, under the boosters in the back, somewhere maybe under the nose cone. I think that would have been a good idea, a better place to put it. If, of course, the connection was more secure, that would work, but unfortunately with this, it just doesn't really work out. Getting down to transformation, I say after the first 2 times using the instructions, you'll get it down pretty easy. It's a little bit complex, but overall pretty much easy, nothing crazy. I really do like that kind of change in transformation when you flip the wings around. That's actually very surprising. When I first got Thundercracker, I was really surprised by that, and was pretty fun to do. Getting down to the robot mode for Thrust, I think they did a pretty good job. I think they definitely did keep the characteristics of the cone head. Of course, there is an actual cone near his head, which unfortunately does limit the articulation of the head rotation, which to some people is a big deal if you want to do some crazy poses and pictures and stop motions. It's not, I would say, a big deal to me, but I think they could have done it better, considering Starscream and Thundercracker have really good articulation in the head. So I really think they could have done it a little bit better, but I do think for the future cone heads, if they make them, that will be the same case. The articulation head will be limited, but everything else, of course, pretty much the exact same as Thundercracker. I really do like the customization with the wings. You can have them in the typical pointed it down configuration, or you can have it in the more leaning up configuration like Starscream. Personally, me, I have Thrust and Thundercracker, and of course, if they make any of the other ones, I'll have them angled down, and I'll have Starscream's angled up, just to kind of have them tell apart and really look like Starscream's actually actually the leader or in charge. I think that's a pretty cool feature you can do. And as well, with customization, you can have the null rays facing up or down. Typically, I will have the null rays face down on thrust because since they're so loose, if I have them facing up, they'll fall off or just angle down anyway, so I kind of have to have them facing down no matter what. Same with Starscream, but I actually think it looks good that way, especially in Starscream because his wings are faced up, so I kind of think it looks cool with his guns face down, sort of a contrast with height and stuff, which is pretty cool. But again, overall, pretty good figure. Of the three, I have to say he's the weakest, mostly because of all of the problems with, of course, the tightness, really just the consistency of the joints, and of course, the articulation could be a little bit better on the head, but overall, a pretty good figure that I do highly recommend. Getting down to Starscream in his Tetrajet mode, I think did a really good job. Definitely looks like Starscream to me. Really like that nice glossy blue for the nose cone of the plane, and of course, that nice yellow for the cockpit section, and the glossy blue for the fin in the back actually looks really good. And I really do like that nice little kind of racing stripe of white there. That looks really good. And of course, another compliment I gave to Thundercracker, and I will give to Thrust, as I think they did a really good job with the boosters in the back. I do like the Siege way they did it. Unfortunately, it's really just one panel, so it kind of seems a little bit cheap. I think they could have done better. I do like the gunmetal gray on the Siege one. It looks really good. I just really like how they're kind of separate pieces. It looks a little bit better. It would have been nice maybe if they put some like orange or red paint inside the booster, so it kind of looks like it's charging up or blasting off. I think that'd be pretty cool. Not sure if those boosters are Blaster Piece compatible. Do let me know if you know in the comment section down below. And of course, the null rays are stored the exact same way as thrust, and the blaster is stored at the bottom, so nothing different or crazy there. And getting down to, of course, the nitpicks, I do wish the null rays were a little bit better connected. They're not as bad as thrust, because if I just pick that character up, one will pop off, or sometimes it'll just pop off on its own. So it is better on this one, tightness-wise, but could still be a little bit better like Thundercracker. Getting down to transformation, exactly the same as Thundercracker and Thrust. If you have any of those versions, you know exactly what to do here. But if you only have that figure, I'd say after the first 2 or 3 times using the instructions, I think you'll get it down pretty easy. Of course, if you're a pro, you might only need it once. I needed it once to get the whole thing, but I did actually have to go back to figure out how to do, tab in the legs. That was just one little thing that I forgot, but everything else was pretty clear. Of course, getting down to the robot mode, I actually really do like the robot mode. Definitely probably my favorite of all these modes. Of course, the Tetrajet, probably my favorite deco of the Tetrajet would have to be Thundercracker. But of the deco and the mode of the robot, I'm going to have to pick Starscream, because I love his head sculpt. Just screams Starscream. Just a little bit of play on words. Love, of course, the face overall looks really good. Love the silver reaction. I can see sort of a grin or frown in the nose, and the really good piercing red eyes looks really good. And nice glossy black for his helmet looks really nice. Love the cannon. I really do like how it matches the same blue as the fin and the nose cone. That actually looks really nice. And then, of course, the null rays can store on the wings like everyone else, and they do typically will stay on Starscream. I do like how you can, of course, customize the wing design. Of course, this is by the box and instructions. They do have Starscream's wings angled up, unlike Thundercracker and Thrust. But if you want to, you can have them facing down and all of them match. That's not what I'm going to do. I kind of want to have him give a different look, make him look like the boss or who's in charge. But, of course, your figure, display him however you wish. Getting down to articulation, it is better than Thrust because he doesn't have that huge nose cone plaque piece in the back of his head, but I would say that's really the only change in the articulation. Everything else is really good. Love all the details in the arms. Of course, that same repetitive sort of mechanical detailing near the forearm looks really good. I would say of all of that, it looks really good on Thrust because he has gunmetal gray for it, and it looks really nice. There's sort of a mixture of silver and gunmetal gray for Starscream, which I do like as well. And, of course, overall, an amazing figure. And getting down to, of course, the sculpt change between the two, he does have that new added nose cone, but his head sculpt is the exact same as Thundercracker, and Starscream here has a brand new head sculpt, which is not, of course, comparable or the same between the two, Thundercracker and Thrust. But overall, 2 very good figures between the two. I think you can already tell I do like Starscream more. Just the tolerances, the deco, the look is just much better. Maybe, possibly, I might send this one back and kind of get a replacement or something like that. Maybe I'll try try and find some like loose null rays on eBay just to be a little bit tighter. Maybe I'll try and customize a little bit. I typically don't do that, but it is very annoying transforming this figure or picking it up, because pretty much every time I do, one of them pops off. That is kind of an annoying thing, but I wouldn't say a deal breaker. Overall, two really cool looking Seekers to add to my collection. I really do hope that they make Skywarp. He's actually my favorite Seeker, and of course the rest of the Coneheads, which I do think will happen at some point in time, because they will just be redecos, but I'm honestly okay with that. I think that'll look really cool, and I'd like if they maybe varied between the kind of mask and not mask, because of course Thrust has that sort of oxygen mask thing, but Starscream doesn't, and I'd be fine for the rest of the Coneheads. Maybe Dirge has one, but Ramjet doesn't, and maybe Skywarp has a mask, and, you know, just back and forth. I'd be perfectly fine with that. Or if they did all masks, honestly, it wouldn't really make a big deal to me. Overall, really cool looking figures. Let me know what you think of this review in the comment section down below. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you.